Welcome to episode 247 of First Geek 411. I'm your host, Cameron Franklin, and with me, as always, from West Coast, Best Coast, is Emma. How are you doing?
I am considerably less sick than when I was this time last week.
Nice. Glad you're feeling better. This week, we are chatting. The SAG After Strike continues. Diablo is getting a tabletop RPG, and we got some news on the Echo show. So before we get into that, as always, you can find us on our social media as OneGeek411. Check us out on Discord. Shoot us an email at 1stgeek411@gmail.com. Watch live on Twitch Monday nights, 6:30, 6:45 Mountain Time. And you can find the videos over on our YouTube. You can also check out that Redbubble store. Emma, you mentioned being sick, but what all else have you been up to?
Recently, well, I'm free of the major chaos in my semester. Now it's just minor chaos. Um, but I have been sick for the past week and a half, 2 weeks. And since I have finally had 2 days off to rest and stare at the ceiling like a person who is sick and sick, I have been catching up on all of the things that I am behind in majorly, like Great British Baking Show, and that's been fun.
Nice.
Dimension 20 and Critical Role. I've been playing Assassin's Creed Mirage and catching up on that. Um, and dressed up for Halloween last Tuesday as Aziraphale, went to one class and then immediately went home and crashed back into bed because I was sick. A lot of the things I've been doing recently have evolved around the fact that I am recovering from a chest cold. So, nothing very exciting. Um, except staring at the ceiling and watching lots of TV and or responsibly taking Dayquil so that I could get schoolwork done. If you're going to take drugs for sicknesses, do so responsibly and always read the label. I will always say that. I always endorse responsibility over anything else. So yeah, that's been my life. I
Yeah.
am finally on the up and up. And yeah, that has
Glad,
been my life.
yeah, glad you're doing better. Glad, I wasn't really sure. Last week uh, we knew that we were going to be doing a 1989 Taylor's version thing at some point in time. Weren't exactly sure when it was going to be, but you not feeling well kind of put that on as, oh, we're going to do it now. And so happy to have you back. Happy that you're feeling better. How is Assassin's Creed Mirage treating you?
I am having fun. It's definitely a challenge on my part, which I think I've mentioned in the past. Um, in part because I love doing stealth, but it's the fact that it leans so heavily
Mm-hmm.
on stealth as the main gameplay, like, has been a good way to like challenge me into like getting better at that because I'm so used to the way I play stealth. Like, I'll if I'm like going into an enemy territory, I'll stealth clean out the first half,
Mm-hmm.
and then at some point accidentally get caught, and then just like hack and slash my way through the rest of it. And because of the way that Mirage is sort of designed, doing straight up battle is much more difficult than stealth, somewhat intentionally because they
Mm-hmm.
really want you to do things entirely stealthy. Um, so it's been a fun challenge for me in that regard of like really leaning into the stealth aspect of things.
Nice.
Um, so that's been a lot of fun. Um, I think the cat's trying to get in.
Oh, okay.
He may or may not make an appearance depending on his mood. Um, so I've been having a lot of fun with it in the past 2 days of finally getting to play video games again. Um, So yeah, I'm enjoying it and having fun and alternating between playing that and admittedly The Last of Us Part 2 again.
Nice.
Because I love my zombies. Um, and it's nice to have a game that I already know um, to sort of jump into every once in a while. And yeah, so things are going well and I cannot complain.
Speaking of messing up stealth sections, for me, this past week, I beat Spider-Man 2.
Woo!
I finished it out on Friday night and then got the platinum on Saturday. Very cool, very excited for what it sets up for the series. Ton of fun. I ended up getting the platinum in about 23 hours, which is like at the lower end of the estimates that like we had, it was like 2 weeks ago when we were first talking about it. I know I've seen other people that have gotten around 30 hours for the platinum. It kind of just depends on how many crimes you do, how much swinging around you do, stuff like that. I definitely hit the point where, as a bad superhero, I just stopped helping with the crimes.
Yeah.
I was like, it'll sort itself out once I leave the area and it despawns. Everything's fine. And so I didn't feel like I needed the XP. And I was like, I got places to be. And so went through that. And then after beating the game, I also dove back into Sea of Stars, which is like a Super NES inspired RPG. It's free via PlayStation Plus Extra as well as Xbox Game Pass, so highly recommend people check it out. It does take a bit to get going. It doesn't help that for me, I feel like the character that I'm supposed to sympathize with is one I have not sympathized with at all. So that's a thing. But I'm now towards the very end of the game and I'm trying to clean up so that way I can do the true ending before I actually go into like the final story push. And so that's going well. We also started watching Only Murders in the Building.
Yes.
And
so good.
Yeah, we're 3 episodes in, so we're like very early on. So far, I am really enjoying it. With Selena Gomez, Martin Short, and Steve Martin as our leads. And so
Yep. I'm behind on that as well, but it's so
I think
good.
there's 2 seasons out, right?
Yeah. I'm almost done with the first season. Okay.
So I've definitely been enjoying it. It's kind of crazy going to that from Ted Lasso as the last show that we watched a lot of, because
what a comedy shift.
Yeah, they are very different, both like tonally and in their type of comedy. But I am very much enjoying it. It's been a lot of fun so far, and so stay tuned. I have more as we get watching more of that. And then book-wise, last week as we were doing our 1989 Taylor's version, Shanine mentioned picking up a new book from V.E. Schwab, being The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. And so I went over to the library. The audiobook was not available, so I put a hold on it, and like the next day it became available. So what? I've been listening to that. I'm about 12 hours in, about 2/3 of the way through it, and it might be my favorite V.E. Schwab book. And so I've been kind of doing like an unofficial marathon of her books because they're all available through the local library app. And so I've been like making my way through them, and I had originally skipped over this one. But having heard what Shanine said about it last week and generally liking V.E. Schwab a lot, I decided to check it out. And yeah, I'm loving it. The high level is it's about a woman who makes a deal with the devil and is dealing with the consequences of that deal. And so very much enjoying it, very much recommend. It's a lot. I think one of the reasons I wasn't interested in it is it seemed kind of dark and heavy, but that is not the vibe. And so
is it like comedy-esque?
There is some silliness to it. And then there's also the mischievous side of it, kind of as you would expect in a story about somebody making a deal with the devil. That it's the trying to take advantage of the deal. How can you use the deal to your favor? What's in it for you after you now have this deal's been made and stuff like that.
Yep.
And so check your local libraries, or go check out the book. I definitely recommend it. And so there's been some very cool stuff so far. And then finally, we were going to play a game of Pathfinder this past weekend, but between Emma being sick and some other players not being available, Ryan and I got on and we just kind of chatted for like an hour and change and had a great conversation. It was basically me gushing about how much I love Pathfinder 2e, and asking questions about Ryan and being like, here's why I disagree with you for not liking that. But I tried to keep it, of course, light and fun, because like the things that he's unsure about as a DM are the things that I love as a player. And so it's been pretty fun to kind of go through that and look back, and we'll hopefully have some more type of content like that. And we also get into like talking about running some other games and what that could look like too. And so we might be having something else coming to City on a Hill soon, that I thought about as soon as we finished recording. And so it's not in the recording, so people will have to wait. But yeah, chat, comment section. Let us know what you have been up to. Let us know what you're thinking about The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, because we've talked about it in 2 weeks in a row. 2 people have recommended it, and I assume everybody is listening to the audiobook as soon as they finish listening to this. So
You are absolutely correct. I do not have 10 million other TBRs on my list, and that is the first one at the top.
Yep. Appreciate it. I knew that I could trust in your support for this decision. So.
Yep.
But with that, let's go ahead and jump into our news topics for this week. Emma, why don't you kick us off?
First and foremost, my mom sent me cookies in the mail. That is very important news. They are homemade, and they are chocolate chip cookies. That goes under news instead of my week, because it is in fact newsworthy that my mother sent me cookies, and I love her very much.
Yeah, we're actually take down the picture. I put it up too soon. This is the topic of the week. What kind of cookies were they?
Chocolate chip.
Nice.
No raisins. Homemade.
Nice.
And they are crunchy.
And nobody stole them off your patio?
No. They did not.
When I had my house in Connecticut, one of the only packages that never got delivered to me is when Deanna and I were dating. She made me cookies and shipped them to me. Aww. And it's either the only package that ever got stolen off my porch or didn't make it through the post office. But yeah, it's the only package I never received at my house. So
wah wah.
Yeah. But well, I'm excited. Getting homemade cookies is always best.
Yes.
I'm glad that you are also
the first piece of news.
Yeah. On team chocolate chip, the correct team.
Yes. Yes. Very much the correct team to be on. News 2, the actors are still on strike. It's not super newsworthy, but I just figured I would continue saying that until it is no longer true that the actors are still on strike. They are meeting with the AMPTA to make a deal, but as of November 6th, they have been on strike for 110 plus days, and a deal has not yet been made. So they are still on strike. It seems, something fair to continue mentioning, especially for people outside of the industry, because there is some confusion, because a lot of people I've talked to have been like, wait, wasn't the strike resolved? Yes, but no. What you're thinking
one
of
them
is the
was.
writers. The writers and the actors were on strike at the same time for a chunk of time. The writers went on strike first, and then the actors followed suit. Then the writers struck a deal, and now the actors are still on strike. So I'm just gonna keep mentioning it and bringing it up until a deal is made for the actors, because I like to like mention to people like, hey, it's not over yet. Even if you think it's over, it's not really over yet. Because the actors still need a fair deal. Pay and support your actors, especially since the majority of the actors union is not your A-list, B-list, C-list people who you know and love. It's mostly struggling artists and actors whose names are not known, or known by very few. So we do not want our background actors having their face scanned by an AI and being used in perpetuity by a studio without that actor getting paid for their appearance and likeness being used as an extra. That's just not cool, in my humble opinion.
Yep, I agree.
um, so that is the deal. Actors are still on strike. We love them. We support them. We want them to have a fair deal working with the studios. So yeah. Um, and last and not least, or maybe least, be on brand with the fact that I have been sick for the past week and a half. For anyone who likes watching dumb TV full of drama that doesn't like or just wants to have something to watch that doesn't make them think every once in a while, season 7 of Selling Sunset is out. It's full of drama and selling rich real estate to people in Hollywood. It's not the most fulfilling TV in the world, but it's fun if you just want to sit and stare at a screen for 45 minutes about people yelling at each other over silly things that they said when they were drunk. But yeah, season 7 is out, so I like dumb TV every once in a while.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. So, some call outs I wanted to add to the SAG AFTRA thing, because they were in the article that you had shared from NBC, that the AMPTP sent their last, best, and final offer to the SAG AFTRA committee, when then today SAG AFTRA sent a counter offer back to them.
Yep.
So we'll see if that was indeed last, best, and final,
Yep.
or if
We will
SAG is
indeed
calling
see.
their bluff. And then
Yep.
it's so easy to lose track of time. It's been 116 days that they have been on strike, and it has. They call out at the end of this article, the months long strike has left thousands of people out of work and cost the California economy over $5 billion.
That's billion with a B
Yeah.
as in bat and bathroom
Yeah.
and bananas
Yeah. And so this
and
is
Bartholomew.
and Bartholomew. But yeah, still ongoing, still a lot to do there. And I do like what you called attention to, that like, I think for normal people like me that are not remotely connected with the industry, as you are, it's easy for us to forget that like this isn't about the A-list actors.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that was a very common response of like, oh well, why do we care if insert extremely wealthy person here gets paid more? It's like, well, it's kind of the idea of like minimum wage, that like
If we're
minimum
talking,
wage isn't
yeah.
for the billionaires. Minimum wage is for the people trying to survive.
Yeah.
And that's the
If
most
we
important part of this.
were to put the entire population of the SAG union into a bubble, and just like, if we're talking about just that population of actors who are SAG union actors, your A-list and B-list actors are the 1% of the 1%.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they're going to be affected by, AI policies and stuff, but in general, they're fine. Like,
Yeah.
they're going to take considerably less of a hit short term than everyone else. And they're also a considerably tiny portion of that union population.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the population is so many people. My roommate is a SAG union actor. a lot of my friends are SAG union actors. Obviously, all of them, like, of every screen appearance they've had has either been, small independent projects that they've done with their friends, or like super minor, like extra with no lines, way in the back corner roles. So like, it's a lot of people like that who are not your Daniel Radcliffe's and Tom Cruise's and Emily Blanchett's of the world. It's the Lauren Burns who sleeps in the room next to me, and whoever else out there who no one knows except for their friends and family.
Yeah. That reminds me, I forgot to mention it, but this past week we watched the Marvel Assembled for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And I did not realize how much practically they did with background actors. Like, we're definitely at that stage where, like, I just kind of assume most things are CGI. But, like, seeing the prosthetics that they used for, like all of the animal people things are, like, actual costumes. Like, all the aliens, or the majority of the aliens, are actual costumes. The big, like, flesh suits that Nathan Fillion and team are wearing is, like, an actual costume. Like, it was super cool getting to see that, and getting to see, like that intention of all of those people, like, in that costume department. And, like, shout out to all the people that were in, like, 4 hours of makeup for the background of one scene kind of thing.
Oftentimes it's more than 4 hours, I guarantee you.
Yeah. And just for the one they called out, like, they were, and so, yeah. So shout out to them. Like, that was super cool. It was awesome to see. And so, in chat, Mayflies, oh boy, talk about background actors. Remember Lord of the Rings? Yeah.
Yeah. Huge. Like, I mean, studios have to get those people from somewhere.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's part of the reason LA is LA. Like, the first place to post, backgrounds needed is going to be in LA, because there's so many actors here who are, like, going to hop at the first chance they see at something like that.
So we will, of course, continue to monitor the strike. I mean, I say that like we're breaking news.
I'm the one that's going to be monitoring it, and, like, because it does have to do with my day-to-day life as a filmmaker.
Yeah, Emma will monitor and will tell us when.
I will let the world know when the actors' strike is over.
And so, stay tuned. I'm sure we will eventually have hopefully a very celebratory podcast topic once we have resolved the strike. And so, I'm just saying, though, I can make another trip to LA.
You could.
It happened last time. Gotta believe. And so
I wouldn't turn it down. My doors are open.
Yeah. Deanna and I will figure out a place things to do, places to visit, strikes to end. So
yep.
But let's go ahead and jump on to our next topic. This past week was BlizzCon. And while there was a lot of news there, the thing that I want us to kind of focus in and chat about was the announcement, or re-announcement, I guess, of a Diablo 4 tabletop RPG. This is going to be general Diablo. This is not going to necessarily be set during, like, Diablo 4 or whatever. And there was also the announcement of Diablo the board game. And so, and then I'm going to be reading from Dicebreaker. Go check them out for all your board game news needs. They write, players will take control of their own custom characters known as champions, who must venture through the setting of the game, helping those in need by exploring dungeons and tombs filled with undead horrors. It is not yet confirmed whether either game will feature elements of randomized or procedurally generated dungeons, a hallmark of the video game, but an element of randomization may be indicated by the announcement mentioned that the stories will play out in the ever shifting world of Sanctuary. Characters will face multiple opponents in battle at the same time, with the glass cannon unplugged, saying that the RPG system will provide satisfying, fast paced combat. The system was confirmed to be a unique rule set rather than being based on the existing framework or in existing frameworks such as D&D 5e, as with the fellow video game adaptations like Dark Souls the RPG. And so I'm hesitantly interested in this. I feel like there's been a lot of really cool crossovers lately into the TRPG space, with things like the Assassin's Creed game, Gloomhaven getting a tabletop RPG. There was obviously the open gaming license stuff that happened recently, and I'm sure has caused a lot of these bigger companies maybe to scramble on their wording and what's going on with things. But I'm like hesitantly very interested in this. Do you have any experience with the Diablo franchise?
None. Absolutely none.
So I've played a little bit of Diablo 2. It was a game that I definitely missed like the boat on. I was too young when it came out. And then Diablo 3, I played a good chunk of it when it first launched. And I've probably said this multiple times on the podcast, but Diablo 3 is also the game I've been the most close to rebuying every time it goes on sale on PlayStation. I had a lot of fun with the Diablo 4 open beta, but I did not end up picking up the game at launch. And I know there's kind of been some back and forths amongst the community about Blizzard's post-launch support for the game. And so I'm not necessarily up on the recent lore, but based on that blurb though, what do you think about this other licensed IP entering the world of tabletop RPGs?
I think it could be interesting in the grand scheme of things. Having had no experience with Diablo in the past, I don't quite know how it's going to play out as a tabletop game. But obviously we've seen a lot of adaptations in the past of video games to some form of tabletop game, not necessarily always role-playing games, but like Horizon has its own board game, and a couple of others, I think.
Yep.
Um,
Dark
Horizon's
Souls and Bloodborne and Demon
yeah,
Souls all have their
yeah.
adaptations as well.
Horizon's the one I know of for certain, because I've had it on my wish list for years on end now. But it will be fun and interesting to see some kind of IP jump into the world of role playing more so than the other side, like every other board game format, more than anything else. So kind of like what you said, I'm cautiously optimistic in terms of how it will come out. Like, I do think it would be a lot of fun if this goes over well for other IPs to sort of build on their, video game creations in a more role playing format that's in person. Because that's one of the biggest attractions to a lot of video games is getting to play as the main character or one of the main characters or whatever, is being able to like be sucked into the story as the person who sort of runs and succeeds at that challenge of whatever the story is. But like a lot of the attraction with role-playing games is being able to do that, but with friends at a table in person. So if this goes over well, I do hope that it does encourage other companies to not only like create tabletop role-playing games of their IPs, but create them well.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of the people who play video games also happen to be D&D players, 5e players, Pathfinder players. Like a lot of those loves sort of overlap with each other. So
In chat, we got some call outs from Sneaky says, feeling the same about this, cautiously optimistic / intrigued. Mayfly says they want to play Candela Obscura. That is one that I forgot to call out as a recent RPG that came out. And then Sneaky also says, almost bought the Horizon board game because you can solo play that. Highly recommend solo plays of board games. And you mentioned the Horizon game got me thinking. I went and did a quick Google and I found the best video game tabletop adaptations in 2023. So post-show chat, that's what we're going to be talking about. And then Sneaky says, I think it's a cool idea to delve deeper into a video game franchise you love. I agree. And that's kind of the thing. As somebody who like would not say Diablo is by any means one of my main fandoms, it seems so ripe for an RPG to jump into because it's so action packed. It's so like so many cool abilities, so many things that your characters get to do. And it just seems so fitting to be a tabletop RPG compared to like some other franchises. Like, I'll use, just because you mentioned it, I'll use Horizon as the example. Like, I feel like Horizon, like part of the fun of Horizon is being Aloy. And it seems a lot harder to get into that mindset. Whereas Diablo is already built around adventuring with your friends, taking down these demons and stuff like that. Just like in my brain, it's just like so much a quicker jump to get into that realm. That makes me really excited. I also am very excited specifically about the note that they call out of fast-paced, satisfying fast-paced combat. Let's go. Like, gotta go fast. You have to like let's get characters being quick, doing like they're like whatever options they're gonna have for moves and abilities and things like that. Very interested in what that's gonna be, because like I know that can be a lot of the struggle for tabletop RPGs for a lot of people. There's so many options. There's so many like decision points for what you want it to do on your turn, especially if you're a spellcaster, that it can be super overwhelming. But give people like quick, impactful choices to make. Like that seems awesome. And also worst case scenario, you want to run this in a different system, strip out the story that you like and play it. Like that's the thing that I love about TTRPGs of it's like, there's always ways to like adapt cool things from people into whatever system you're playing. Like, and I always really appreciate that. Find a cool puzzle, cool mini game, adapt the rules, but it's super easy to bring it in. To kind of put a final bow on this, the Diablo tabletop RPG is due to be released next year at BlizzCon. And then the Diablo board game will launch a crowdfunding campaign with a launch and release date yet to be announced. And then there is also a survey if you would like to give community feedback. And so definitely recommend that for people that are interested in it. And then final topic for this week is we got our first trailer for Echo, which is not the next Marvel. Is the next Marvel series coming out? ? We are, as of recording, in the final week of Loki season 2. We get our last episode this week, and then we have the Marvels coming out in November, and then Echo is set to be released in January on January 10th. And for the first time, we're getting a full drop of the whole series. It's supposed to be 5 episodes that are all dropping the same day. And so,
Intriguing.
yeah. Did you see Hawkeye? Did you watch that series?
No. I watched the first, like, 2 episodes, but I haven't watched any since.
Okay. I really liked the characters in Hawkeye. I have some like plot complaints, but like I really liked the introduction of Echo. We get to see some cool characters like meeting for the first time. Kate Bishop is amazing. Lucky the pizza dog is very cool, as you would expect. And so I'm very excited. And so this is going to be an interesting one. There have been some kind of doubts about this show, both because of the current state of the MCU, but also because with it being the first time that they're releasing a whole series at once, there's also been some worries about what that means. But Marvel is also using this as a chance to launch a new label that they'll be releasing things under called Marvel Spotlight. And they say that Marvel Spotlight gives us a platform to bring more grounded, character-driven stories to the screen. And in the case of Echo, focused on street-level stakes over larger MCU continuity. Just like comics fans don't need to read Avengers or Fantastic Four to enjoy a Ghost Rider Spotlight comic, our audience doesn't have to have seen other MCU series to understand what's happening in Maya's story. So I'm excited for that. Like,
Yeah.
those
same.
those are words that I enjoy. I would also, though, argue that the problem with MCU Phase 4 and Phase 5 so far isn't that stories have been independent. In fact, kind of the opposite. Looking at you, celestial size head that's in the ocean that's only been referenced once on the side of a page. But
Hey,
like,
they may be a bit in over their heads,
yeah. And so
but
I made my sense of puns well now. But I am excited for this as a label. I'm curious if they will go back and retroactively add this to Moon Knight, because Moon Knight very much had that same vibe that they're describing. That you really didn't need to understand MCU as a whole to go watch Moon Knight. And I really like this idea of taking smaller, self-contained stories that you don't necessarily have to be big stakes or big impacts on the future. They can just be a standalone thing about a character. And then that character can come up. There can be Easter eggs for if you know, you know. But if you don't know, then just enjoy, hopefully, whatever is in this other film. I've seen a lot of talk around that with Loki in specific for season 2, where like a lot of like the groundwork for the multiverse has been set in the Loki shows. And there's going to be some interesting general public confusion, most likely, if those rules end up becoming a major part of future projects, since like No Way Home didn't really deal with that.
yeah.
And so I could definitely see there being a lot of confusion there. Let's see. Do you have I guess you don't know who Echo is, so I guess that maybe this is a silly question, but do you have any intention of watching Echo when it drops on January 10th?
I am so behind on everything Marvel, like specifically. Like I am like maybe halfway through the first episode of Loki season 2. I haven't watched any of the other recent releases, I don't think. And that's just partially because I've gotten so into D&D stuff over the past year and a half, 2 years, that I've been watching all of that instead of anything Marvel. And partially because I'm a film student and have been in the state of mind of if I watch anything movie, I'm going to criticize all of it because I suddenly know stuff. And I don't want to ruin Marvel for myself because I am clearly wearing a Captain America shirt right now and love it so much that like I just don't want to ruin my past self's experience of it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. As somebody who's caught up and someone who was excited for that when we finally got Echo in Hawkeye, I'm tentatively excited for this. We are gonna go see the Marvels this week, so we'll see kind of where that leaves us off. But I am really excited. I enjoy this character. I like the people that are involved with the project, trying to avoid as many spoilers as possible in case people haven't seen the trailers. But I think the person's name, I want to get the person who plays Echo, Alakwa Cox, plays Echo / Maya, and so I feel like they did a really good job in Hawkeye, and I like that they are like so like Echo is deaf, and so I like that it is a deaf person who is playing that role, and I believe from like the behind the scenes, this is like her first acting gig is playing
that's
Echo,
great.
or like her first like major acting gig. I could be completely
Yeah.
wrong there.
Yeah.
Let me go.
The industry is starting to get much better about that kind of thing where if you have a character
Mm-hmm.
with an on-screen disability, like actually hiring someone with that disability um instead of like hiring an able person and teaching them sign language or whatever, like um we're actually getting much better about being intentional with who we cast, which I love and appreciate so much. So I'm so here for that.
And yes, it is her first acting gig. At least it's the only thing attributed to
Love.
her on IMDb, and so
I love that.
so that's super cool. And so yeah, listeners, stay tuned. We'll be talking, of course, more Marvel as things come. But with that, I guess let's go ahead and wrap up and then get into our post-show discussion. As always, listeners, you can find us on our social media as OneGeek411. Check out that Discord server. Shoot us an email at 1stgeek411@gmail.com. Check out Redbubble. Watch live on Twitch. Be part of those post-show chats. And find the videos over on our YouTube. You can also find us on our personal social media. Mine is Humar Whittle.
Mine is I am not prepared with an I in the prepared.
And it's been a great week.
Take your vitamins.